Testing. Hey Dion, how's it going, man? Hey Richard, how's it going? I was a little bit late today because Jeremy's live streaming right now too, and I wanted to let him have a chance to finish what he was talking about. Can you hear me? Hey doll, can you hear me?
Oh, I haven't got my earphone on. I don't know. Yes.
Okay, good. Nice and clear, no echo, Dion says. Well, that's good. My background on this stream is the images that I took of my Teleocycla monogrammus for my last video that I put out. My focusing work wasn't very good, but you get a chance to see pretty well how large they've gotten. There have been 2 videos that have come out in the last couple of days about 1,200 gallon tank. Rob put one out, and from Luke Diesel from Flip Aquatics. He put his out first, and then Corey put us. Yeah, Dion, I had an old friend of mine describe me to a girl that he was trying to fix me up with as ugly as a mud fence, but a good person. So, excuse me. Anyway, 2 videos have come out in the last couple of days. One from Rob at Flip Aquatics, and one from Corey. They both, this last time Corey came to Ohio, they both went to Jonathan's house. And Jonathan has a slew of fish tanks, but he also has a 1,200 gallon tank that he built himself in his basement. Well, his basement is pretty much his fish room anyway. And I met Jonathan when I went, hey Fish Life, welcome to the stream. I met Jonathan when I went to the Ohio Cichlid Extravaganza, and late one night I couldn't sleep, so I got up and went downstairs and was sitting out front, and Jonathan happened to be sitting on the bench, so I sat down next to him and we started talking fish. And he was waiting for his wife to come in. She was out running around with Rusty Wessel and Mike and the guys from Imperial Tropicals. They had all gone out running around to the bars, and he was waiting for his wife to come home. And I heard it was going to be someplace different, but I may be wrong, Dion. Anyway, we got a chance to sit there for about an hour and talk fish, and one of the first things he did was say that somebody had called him from home. He got a phone call and said someone had called him from home, and one of his fish had eaten another of his fish in a tank. And of course, at this time, I had no idea what kind of tanks or fish or anything that the guy had. We were just talking fish. And by the way, this is the beauty of going to these kinds of events, is that there are so many people at these events that are at your skill level, or twice your skill level, or 20 times your skill level, and you just never know when you sit down next to somebody who it is that you're talking to, if you don't know them, you know, from previous meetings or from them being famous or something like that. You don't really know who you're talking to. and so he said that one of his fish had just eaten another of his fish, and I said, "Oh wow, man, sorry to hear that." And he said, "I've got a picture of her here on my phone," and he flashed it up, and I said, "Aha, Sorabimictus pleniceps." And he looked at me, because not many people really even understand or know what that fish is. I told him, I said, that's my dream fish. I've always wanted to keep them, and I've had them twice. The first time I had one, it got to about a foot, and then succumbed to some issue. And I'm assuming, because of my skill level when I had it, I'm assuming it was water quality. And then the second one I had, I got it up over a foot, like 16 inches, something like that, and realized just how big that fish was going to get, and that my 150-gallon tank was not large enough for that fish anymore. So I had to trade that one in. So my dream fish is the firewood catfish, and it comes from Brazilian rivers, and it is a apex predator. It will eat wolffish, and it will eat all of the predators when they're younger, because they get so large and their mouths are so wide that they can eat almost everything, and they do eat everything. And the reason why it's called the firewood catfish is because the natives hate it. It eats their bait, they catch it, and it's keeping them from catching anything else while it's on the line, and they're fighting it in. And they are so skinny, no matter how much they eat, there's just almost no flesh on the fish at all. It's just, they're skinny as a rail. And basically the natives, when they catch them, they can't eat them. So they throw them on the land and let them die, and they hang them up and let them dry out, and they use them for firewood, because that's about all they're worth. But this fish, when it's young, and you get the young when they're about 6 or 8 inches long, has just the most beautiful coloration of dark brown on top, lines of tan and white. It's got a creamy white line that runs the length of its body, and the tan and the white are speckled with really dark brown spots. And they're gorgeous when they're babies. Of course, as they grow larger, they lose some of their coloration, and they just mainly get dark brown and the white line that runs all the way down the length of their body. But this is like a Lima catfish. Hey, Victor, welcome to the stream, man. It's like a Lima catfish or a tigrinus catfish, in that they have a long, slender body, and that they have a very wide head and a very wide and very long mouth, which enables them to open up and eat almost everything. So Jonathan and I started talking about his firewood catfish that he's got. And basically, he confirmed everything that I have understood about this catfish all along. This is an apex predator. This is a fish that's going to kill everything in the tank with it eventually, or at least it believes it will. Yeah, they'll go almost 4 foot, Dion. And they never get more than they get bigger, but they never get fat. They're always skinny, emaciated fish. And the reason that I'm talking about this is because of the 2 videos that Corey and Rob did that are about this 1,200-gallon tank that he has that has this catfish in it. So I would invite you to go watch either of the 1,200-gallon videos that have just come out by Corey and by Rob at Flip Aquatics. Well, he's got it in a 1,200, and that will probably be too small eventually. Now, he's got a red-tail catfish in that tank named Toast that is gigantic, 3 foot and heavy as all get out. And that fish will actually cow the firewood cat. It's big enough to scare the firewood catfish. It can't eat the firewood because firewood's far too long and big, but it can scare it. So, but nothing else in the tank will even disturb that fish. He said that he feeds them through a little window, and Jonathan told me that firewood catfish will sit about 2 foot away from the opening with its feelers up in the air waiting for food to come in, and that the tigrinus catfish that he's got, which is a giant fish too, probably 2.5 foot and probably twice the weight of the firewood, will sit about 2 foot behind it and also with its feelers up in the air, giving deference to that firewood catfish, but both of them lined up waiting for food that they know will come in through that window. Hey Susan, we're talking about dream fish today, and I've done a little explanation of my dream fish, which is the firewood catfish. I've kept them twice, but was never able to really give them enough room to thrive because they are gigantic catfish and they don't really need to be in most hobbyist aquariums because of how large they get. And I was again stating that the reason why I'm talking about this is because I've watched both Corey's and Bob's latest videos on the 1,200-gallon tank, which is Jonathan's basement tank that he built that houses a firewood catfish. So I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about dream fish and what they represent. I see my wife saying that her dream fish doesn't exist. I'm sure it does, honey, that eventually you will find a dream fish just like I have.
Oh, I know what the characteristics of my dream fish. I just know it's not out there.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe after a while you can get on here and
I want a small algae eater that's bright green.
a bright green algae eater.
Yep.
That is kind of tough. Ruru says that his dream fish is a sea dragon.
Is that a variety of seahorse?
I don't know. Look it up and tell me. I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether Ruru wants a fantastical creature in his tanks or if that's actually a keepable creature. But what I wanted to talk about is what a dream fish actually can represent in our hobby for us.
Yep, it's part of the seahorse family.
Okay. That's going to be a tough one to keep, Ruru. You're going to have a hard time keeping that thing alive, probably.
It's a saltwater fish.
Yeah, but it probably requires a great deal of plankton or something in the water for it to filter feed. But a dream fish can give us a goal in our hobby that is not something that we're probably going to achieve right away, is probably not something that we're going to achieve with our current skill level, with our current monetary ability, with our current systems and setups. But a dream fish will give you a goal to look towards long range, long term, something that will allow you to work towards the ability required and the study and the research and the tank size and the quality of water parameters and the correct conditions for your fish, so that you are slowly gaining the skills you need to actually be able to keep that fish alive and to help it thrive. Susan is saying that she likes the looks of German blue rams, but she's not sure that she can keep them. Susan, my one piece of advice about German blue rams is where you actually obtain them from. Hey, Hop Art, welcome to the stream. Susan, if you get German blue rams from a lot of Thailand and foreign country breeders, a lot of times either the line is so thin that the genetics is bad, or the conditions they are raised in are not the best in the world, and they come in barely alive. It's kind of hard to tell when you look at them in the fish store, but they come in barely alive. So my suggestion to you, if you ever decide to get German blue rams to keep as a quote dream fish, my suggestion to you would be to look for local breeders and people that you know and trust and get their stock, because it will be better conditioned for our local water and the strength of the strain will be better. They're very delicate, but it's often more caused by the quality of the strain than anything else. They're just, I don't know whether they're bred so thin or stretched so far that when they come in, they just don't last long. And that's why they're considered difficult to keep. But I think that if you spend enough time looking online, if you spend enough time watching other people's videos, if you spend enough time studying in books, sooner or later you're going to come across a picture of a fish that is a fish that not only stuns you with its appearance, but also stuns you with its either predatory behavior or personality, or something about that fish is going to set it apart from most other fish that you keep, and it will eventually become a dream fish. And when it does become a dream fish, I think that you can engage all of these other parts of that lead up to you being able to keep the fish in an environment where it can thrive and potentially breed, but at least thrive throughout its lifetime and be a happy creature. And I think that the dream fish idea, and it's just an idea, it doesn't have to be something that ever comes to realization, but the dream fish idea / goal, accompanied by the increase in skill, increase in mastery, increase of knowledge and understanding in our hobby, that those two things come together and form a really solid partnership for people that have passed the quote beginning fish keeper stage and are into an area where they are learning and absorbing knowledge easily, that adds to their ability to keep varying kinds of fish, or more specifically, the kind of fish that they love. And I think that those two things combine together to create a very good, how you describe it, state of mind, commitment to effort towards becoming a really good fish keeper. You know, there's lots of stages in our hobby, and the stages can be broken down into, you know, rank beginner, intermediate beginner, high level beginner, low level fish keeper, you know, beginning fish keeper. You can break it down into little stages, and those stages are a combination of experience gained, personal experience gained. They're a combination of communication with others who may or may not have more skill in a certain area than you do, because even someone that doesn't have more skill than you do may possibly have advice which will increase your ability. So all these things, and your intake of knowledge, your expression of knowledge to others, because when you teach others about something, you learn more about the subject because you feel compelled to teach them with really good advice. And so hey McMurray, congratulations on 400 subs, man. You beat me to it. All of these things stack up over a period of time, and time is one of the things that you need as well. All these things stack up to create slow movement through all these stages. And while you can buy your dream fish when you're a rank beginner, or you can buy your dream fish when you're a beginning fish keeper or an intermediate fish keeper, your chances of keeping them alive are a lot better if you've gone through a great many stages and gone through a great many increases in ability, so that when you finally do, Hop Art, I couldn't agree with you more. The internet is fantastic, and it's immediate, and for generations that need everything right now, it's wonderful because it gives them a lot of stuff at their fingertips. But there's nothing like books. There's nothing like reference books. There's nothing like people that have worked as hard as they could to write down the very best knowledge that was available at the time that they were writing the books. Anyway, I just wanted to express this idea about my dream fish, because I've gotten to watch my dream fish in those two 1,200-gallon tank videos that Corey and Rob from Flip Aquatics put out, and to let you know that I have actually spoken to Jonathan myself, that I got to spend about an hour talking to him in Ohio at the Ohio Cichlid Extravaganza. And that just goes to show you what kind of chance meetings that you can have with people who are not only in your hobby, but may well be keeping your dream fish in a thriving condition, that you have the opportunity to meet and to talk to if you go to one of these places where some fish event is being held. You can go to your local fish club if you find one and sit down next to someone who is not only a savant in our hobby, but is one of the leading lights in our hobby, and not even know it if you never speak to that person or never learn more about that person. And books are great, internet is great, websites are great, magazines are great, publications are great, but none of them equal sitting down next to someone who has a vast well of experience, personal experience in the hobby, that you can use as a sounding board to bounce questions off of, that will ask you questions that give you insights into what you need to learn so that you can expand your ability in this hobby. And Jonathan was one of those people. And I had no idea who he was. I just recognized he was wearing a fish t-shirt and was out at 1 o'clock in the morning like I was, sitting on a bench. And so I knew that he was there for the conference, so we started talking fish. And he flashed me a picture of my dream fish on his phone, and I recognized it and said exactly what it was, and he gave me a look like there's not 10 people in 1,000 that would be able to recognize and name that fish. So you need to, if you can, if it's available to you, if you can possibly do it, I think it's really important that people get out to these local events, to these regional events, so that you can meet these people. And you may go in there and you may despise everyone in the room. They may all be goldfish keepers and you keep Oscars, and they look at you with horror when you tell them what it is that you love and keep, because their fish are your fish's foods, So things can go wrong. Things can go badly in a local setting. Club politics. There's all kinds of reasons why things can go off the tracks. But it is also possible that things go swimmingly well, too. And that you hit it off with people, and that you make great friends, and that you gain in the hobby. Hey, Joel, welcome to the stream, man. And Hop Art says, I just found a local club, went to my first auction, and it was so much fun. Yes. Hallelujah. Local auctions are always fun because hobbyists just like you are selling you their excess, and they recognize that they're not there to make a huge profit, and they will sell to you at a much better price. Your chances of getting quality fish and quality strains are really high because you have the breeder or you have the owner of the fish right there that you can communicate with. Yeah. Make as many connections with people as you can. Joel says he's having a very fish-focused weekend. Moving tanks and fish all around. Now that could be a lot of work, Joel. It could be a lot of stress too. But I would highly recommend that you guys go to local clubs and auctions, because it's incredible the amount of knowledge that you can gain, and it's incredible the amount of goodies you can get at a reasonable price. And you're helping other hobbyists because they want to sell those things to move on to bigger and better things.
But most importantly, you're building your network. Yeah,
my wife is reminding me that also includes building a network. And that's a really important thing, in the hobby. Like someone that you can call, someone that you can reach out to, someone that you can speak to, someone that will commiserate with you. You know, we all just watched Joey lose his dream fish, his arowana, and that's a terribly devastating thing to go through. This poor guy had his dream fish living in a 400-gallon tank that he built, and it was doing wonderfully. He had it for 5 years, and he had raised it from a very small arowana into a very large arowana. And the fish are ridiculously expensive. It's not like we're just talking about a goldfish that he lost. We're talking, you know, $1,000 or more fish. And yeah, it's tough, Joel. But imagine that guy with all the invested time and effort and knowledge and understanding, getting the ability to build basically an aquarium room and build a dream tank to go along with his dream fish, a 2,000-gallon tank, and give his fish a place to thrive and move around and love, you know, and then to have that tank kill his fish because he put wood in the tank with it, and the fish jumped in a freak accident and landed just wrong on the wood and blew its swim bladder. You know, I mean, Joey seems like a tough guy. He's kind of hard-nosed. You know, he's kind of a hard case at times. He comes across as kind of gruff and, you know, doesn't have time to deal with stuff. But you can see in the moment where he recognizes that he's going to lose that fish. You can see who Joey really is. He really cares about that fish. And to lose it because he built it a huge place to live in, and I can only imagine what he's going through and what he's going to go through. But that was Joey's dream fish, and I'd love to hear what your guys' dream fishes are, what it is that you are trying to strive towards, what it is that you really want to have as a dream fish. Hop Art's been talking to my wife about his local club. Hop Art in Florida, there are a bunch of clubs. Now, they may not all be real active anymore, but I've lived in Florida when I was keeping fish, and I do know that there are a bunch of clubs. Not only are there clubs in Florida, you've got some of the greatest fish farms in the world all around you down there in Florida. I would advise you to look up Imperial Tropicals, and the names escape me right now, but there are 3 or 4 really excellent fish farms that supply a great deal of the fish that we and the rest of the country buy in the hobby. You know, that when we go to our local fish store, when we go to our big box chain, those people are buying their fish from Florida fish farms as much as possible. So I would definitely advise looking up Imperial Tropical, talking to Mike. You know, Mike's a great guy, and the guys that work with him are great guys, and I would definitely recommend them highly as, one, a place to buy fish from, and 2, as someone to talk to. He might know people in your local area that have a club that you don't even know about, so I definitely look all that stuff up. I've met Mike, I've talked to Mike, I've watched his fish. He does excellent work. He is basically a hobbyist running a fish farm that sells wholesale, but will also open up and sell to the public. You can order them online. You can go there. If you set up an appointment, they'll walk you around the farm.
Is that Imperial?
Yeah, Imperial. Jeremy, I'm not sure he's still in the stream or not, but Jeremy did a walkthrough at Imperial Tropical, and he can tell you about the guys there. You want to sit here for a minute and talk, honey?
Not just yet. I gotta go put a little makeup on.
You don't have to put makeup on, honey. The camera's not that
Yes, it is. I'll be right back.
not that big and not that.
Oh, I have a particularly bad case right now.
Okay. Well, I understand that. Hey, Jimmy H., welcome to the stream, man. We're basically talking about dreamfish. Yeah, Jeremy, I've just been talking to him about Imperial Tropicals and Mike. Mike's a great guy and a great person if you're in Florida to especially hook up with and talk to about fish. I was going to let her sit and talk to you guys a minute. She's getting real close to finishing her PowerPoint. I think this PowerPoint presentation is going to come as a bit of a shock to a lot of you. Hey, Valley Fish. She's done some pretty deep research on this subject now. It's basically, basically the impetus of this research that she's doing is about how our LED lights are affecting plants, but she has also been doing the research about how those lights affect our fish, and I think it's going to come as a bit of a shock to you guys. I haven't watched it all or helped her. She's still got to do her voiceover recordings and some film stuff's got to be done, but she's getting real close to finishing it, and I think it's going to be quite an eye opener. I'm not sure how the hobby would react to what she's going to put out, but I think it will give you guys a little bit of a wake-up call as to what's actually going on with our fish and with our plants. Yeah, Hopart, if you have some patience, you'll probably find those fish at your local club, because somebody's going to love them just as much as you do, and if they do, they might be breeding them, and then they'll be bringing them in and selling them, and that's always a good thing. So basically this stream is about our dream fish, and I would encourage anybody that wants to, if you've got questions, ask them, and I'll do my best to answer them from my personal experience, or if it's something that I've studied or read or have a clue about or have heard of, I will try to give you my anecdotal or reference material knowledge. I've probably forgotten more than most of you know. That's one of the problems with getting old, but I still remember a little bit. And by the way, that's a joke. Yeah, it is pretty hot to fish ship right now. To ship fish, not fish ship. That's one of the problems with the dead of summer in hot areas, is that it really becomes a death trap to try to ship fish around the country, because they'll sit around in the bright sunlight and just soak up so much heat that it'll kill your fish. Laura says that her dream fish are discus, and at the moment she doesn't have space for them, but one day. Laura, there are a ton of videos and there is a ton of reference material about discus out there. They're one of the most kept fish or the most revered fish. You know, they've often been called the king of the tropical fish hobby, and with good reason. They're incredibly beautiful fish. I got a chance when I was at Jim's house, Sashimi Whiskey, for those that don't know him by his actual name. When he got ready to move to Washington, he had to divest himself of a lot of tanks and fish. And I think Jeremy, Sergeant Tank here in the chat, and I got the lion's share of those fish and tanks. I know he sold some to others, but basically we swooped in and scooped up as many of them as we could afford or had the place to keep. And he had 2 discus in that tank in his bedroom that I saw often online, but I had no idea how beautiful they were until I actually had them right in front of me and could look. And Jeremy has those 2 discus now. And as I've told him before, he's lucky, because if I could have figured any way at all to keep them, I would have bought them on the spot after looking at them in person. And I think Jeremy's trying to get them to breed. Okay, I'm going to let my wife sit in for a little bit and talk to you guys about whatever. It gives me a chance to get a break. Laura, go look up Jack Watley. He won't be hard to find. You'll find plenty of information on him. When I was coming up, he was the discus guy, and I still think that his advice and his experience is valuable in this hobby.
That pillow has got a mind of its own. Hello, everyone. I'm going to update you on how my presentation is coming. For those of you who have talked with me before, I'm making a presentation on lighting for aquaria, and have done quite a bit of research. And by research, I mean I have read the field research and the basic research that has been done by people who are zoologists and oceanographers and freshwater experts. I'm not talking about just going online and reading what various companies have to say about their lighting, because most of that is immaterial, irrelevant, and wrong. So I've been focusing on physiology of the fish themselves and their eyes, and what the lights that the lighting companies have provided us with are actually doing to our fish eyes. And it's very alarming, actually. It's very alarming, and the more research that I find, the more alarmed I become, because it's very possible that a great many of our fish have lost their color vision due to living in these high blue environments. Let me check the roll here. As you know, most of you know, I'm visually impaired, and it's very difficult for me to read the live chat while I'm sitting here, so I have to get up really close, so hang on just a second. Okay, so Laura's looking forward to my presentation. Well, here's one of the things I wanted to ask Laura and everyone in the room, basically, is it's becoming very long, because every time I think I'm done, I find more information to put in there that needs to be in there. And so I'm thinking about cutting it. I was going to do both plants and fish in the same presentation, but now I'm thinking maybe I ought to cut it into a lighting for fish and lighting for plants. And actually it's kind of shaping up. That's what is good for fish is also good for plants. So I might divide it that way. Let me know your thoughts on that. Would you rather watch, you know, just the whole long thing that's all tightly zipped and woven together? Or do you mind if it's cut into 2 pieces so you can watch it separately? I'd be interested in your thoughts on that. Let's see. Sergeant Tank says he's old school with more white spectrum, CFL, 800 lumens, and 6500K. You know, 6500 is still in the danger range, Sergeant Tank. And I'm hoping that when I get this finished, and I'm almost finished with the fish part, I'm hoping to have some guidelines for you about where I personally would draw the line, knowing what I know about lighting, and I've been studying lighting for almost 40 years. Knowing what I know, where I would draw the line at a point that it's not going to hurt my fish's retinas and kill their color vision. Because color vision's very important to, you know, mate selection and detecting danger and all kinds of things. So I'd like, once I get that out there, I'd like your feedback on that too. So Hop Art is saying 2 different ones would be great. And Corona Ken, hi Ken, is saying fish and plants separately, please. And Valley Fish is saying I would watch both videos. So fantastic. Sergeant says we can use that type of bulb and utilize a diffusing method to reduce the spectrum. What would you use as a diffuser? Are you talking about parabolic lenses, or are you talking about sheets of clear acrylic, or what kind of diffusing method are you talking about? Laura says she doesn't mind the length. You can dip in and out of it if it's extra long. Okay. But 2 might be more manageable. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking 2 might be more manageable too for both of us, on your end and on my end. I would have to copy, you know, a lot of pages, but that's not a problem. But I do want you to know the research is out there, the basic research that people did on real fish out in the field. And I thought I was going to have a hard time finding it, but I didn't. And it all shows that the blue light that the people who make the lighting seem to think is so important for these fishes is not that important, and furthermore it's damaging to them. So let's take a look at that and see what we can do in our own aquaria to make things a little more habitable for our fish and our plants, and see if we might have a happier aquarium. So Sergeant Tank says he uses acrylic and glass 3/16 of an inch as diffuser. That's great, because depending on the distance the glass is from the light source, you may get more or less diffusion, but it does diffuse about anywhere from 1/3 to half the blue light that travels through there. So so that would be a good thing. I think acrylic's actually better than glass, because it tends to be a little bit cloudier. Let's see, Susan says, I have a dimmer on 2 of my tanks and find it more like natural lighting effects for the fish. Dimming has to do with intensity, and the research is saying that intensity doesn't seem to have much to do with it. It's the wavelength, and the wavelength is in the blue region. And so, have I gone offline here?
No, honey, that's just the video feed.
The video feed shows you talking. So, I don't know what's happened here, but...
No, you're still on.
Okay. Well, I don't know if anybody can hear me or not, but it's wavelength that has more to do with what's happening to our fishes and their eyes than the intensity. But lowering the intensity can help them relax their bodies a little bit, and that's a good thing. So I'll have more details coming to you soon. If you happen to think of any questions to ask me that you would like covered in those presentations, just fire them off to me at raspberry, raspberry.g@gmail.com, and I will try to either work those into my presentation, or if they're a little bit divergent, I might just send an answer to you personally. Either way, I'll be happy to take your questions. Let's see, everything is fine here. You can hear me? Okay. In my personal feed, it shows Dwain up in the corner talking, so I don't know what's going on. But as long as you can hear me, that's the main thing. You don't necessarily need to see me.
No, you're on, honey.
Okay, he swears I'm on, so
you can see that on yours.
On yours, okay.
Because that's what the live feed that's going out looks like.
Okay, Dwayne's telling me that the live feed is fine. So, well, since you can see me, how do you like my new earrings? These are freshwater pearls and rubies. In case you didn't know, and in case your wife has an anniversary or birthday coming up, rubies are cheaper than they've ever been in all recorded history. They found a bunch of new ruby mines in, not Madagascar, in Eastern Africa, Tanzania, and around in there. And in some cases, rubies are down to $10 a carat, where they were like $4,000 a carat. So now's the time to buy rubies if you ever are going to. So I would urge you to do that. So just check them out. These are pretty good size rubies. They're like 10 millimeters across. And I got a really good price for these. So just the anniversary or birthday idea for you gentlemen, in case something's coming up. All right, I'm going to turn everything back over to my handsome husband, and hope to see you soon. We'll let you know as the moment that my presentation is ready for you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Yes, my wife has been doing jewelry work her entire life. She makes all of her own stuff, so she knows her jewelry very, very, very well.
Better than I know lighting.
She says she knows jewelry better than she knows lighting, and she knows a great deal about lighting, so I would highly recommend if that's something that you're interested in. Of course, there's a lot of man-made stuff out there too, right?
There is, but right now, if you go on eBay and look for rubies, chances are you're going to get the real thing.
I'm not sure if you guys heard that. I'd watch out for the man-made stuff, but she says that the natural stuff is so inexpensive now that they're probably selling you. Yes, Corona Ken, I am one lucky guy.
Laura is asking, did I make the earrings I'm wearing? And the answer is no. I got such a good deal on them, I didn't have to make them.
I'm not sure if you heard that, Laura, but she answered you by saying no. She got such a good deal on them, she couldn't pass it up. And I wasn't even aware that rubies had dropped this low. So there's your little sidebar of advice. Okay, guys, we're getting close to wrapping up the stream here. If you have any questions that you want to get in, I appreciate all of you spending some of your free Saturday with us. If you've got some questions, or if you have comments or want to talk about what your dream fish is, I'd love to see them or hear them. Once again, the Laura, you're probably going to need to go back and watch the beginning to really get the full story. But the reason why I did this stream about my dream fish or about dream fish is because Rob and Corey have both come out with a latest episode about a guy named Jonathan that lives in Ohio, who they both visited here not long ago, who has a 1,200-gallon tank that has my dream fish in it. And I got a chance to meet him and talk to him at the Ohio Cichlid Extravaganza, and he showed me, told me, someone called from his home and told him that one of his fish had eaten another one of his fish, and he started talking about the fish that ate the other fish, and he said, here, I got a picture of her on my phone, and he flashed it, and it was my dream fish, Sorbium ictus planiceps. I always say planiceps, but I guess that's just me mispronouncing the Latin. And basically it is the firewood catfish. And it's not a fish that most people should try to keep. I've had them, Corona Ken says, rubies are discus, tough one, oh dear. And yep, Ken, there's only so much money to go around, bud. You make your choices and you take your chances. I'd say the rubies will probably outlast the discus, but never knows. So, Laura, to answer your question, my dream fish is the firewood catfish. I've kept 2 of them in the past. My skill level wasn't very good at the time, and I think I killed the first one with not enough quality water parameters, and the second one I got it big enough to recognize that it was going to get so big that I couldn't really keep it in good conscience in even a 150-gallon tank, and I traded it back into my fish store for, I can't remember, I think I got other fish or something. So I've actually kept 2 of my dream fish, but I've never really had them long enough to get my fill of it. And Jonathan, who I met, and who those 2 videos that Corey and Rob put out are about, I met him at the Ohio Cichlid Extravaganza last year, and we got a chance to talk about my dream fish. And that's just one of the added extra benefits of going to an event like that. The Chicago show is coming up, and I'm here to tell you that there will be just an immense number of people in our hobby at that show. And I fully recognize that, you know, you've got a budget, or you live someplace where you can't get to a show like Chicago. Don't let that stop you from going to any show that you can find locally or have a chance to catch, because it's an experience that you can't really quantify until you actually go and do it. And you know, your mileage may vary. You may have a miserable experience at one of these shows, but I tend to believe from personal experience that while on the outside it may not look like it's that much, that if you dig a little deeper, it will turn into an amazing experience for you, and one that you will always treasure, and one that you will always have the connections that you made, the people that you spoke to, and your experience. No one can take that experience away from you. So I would highly recommend something like the Chicago show, or the Ohio Cichlid Extravaganza, or the ACA. I've been to any number of ACA events. I actually got to work at one in Texas in the late 90s, and they are just phenomenal. The people that are drawn together to put together something like that, the people that come as speakers, the people that come as sellers, the hobbyists, local hobbyists that come. It's just a phenomenal gathering of people who have very similar experience, very similar goals, very similar passions, and you just can't buy that, you know. I mean, it's a lot of money. We're going to spend a lot of money for a hotel room and traveling to get there, but I wouldn't miss it for the world. Last year I was sick, or I would have tried to go. A lot of people we know from YouTube will be there, and my wife and I look forward to meeting any of you that happen to show up in Chicago. And it's just a really good time. You're with people that love the same things that you love, that experience the same things that you experience, that may have your dream fish as their dream fish as well. And you can get together and talk with those kinds of people. You can get your copies of books signed by people that make that. Well, Laura, I'm not trying to castigate anybody that's not going. I'm just trying to get you to understand how valuable these kinds of things can be. All right, so if there's no questions, we've been going a little over an hour now. If there's no more questions or comments, then I'll shut this down. Once again, I thank you all for spending a part of your Saturday with us, or your Sunday, as the case may be. And I look forward to seeing you guys again online and next week. And I especially look forward to seeing any of you that make the Chicago experience, because I think it's going to be an experience to remember. Yeah, I'm going to do as much filming as I can, Laura. I'm not sure how much that'll be. You know, sometimes when you're in the moment, you kind of forget. But I'll try to film everything that I can. All right, guys, I'm going to shut the stream down and look forward to seeing your videos and all of you in other chats. And good luck, YouTube.
Bye.